Hello guys, my name is Krista. Hello. Today I would like to talk to you about the struggling women and how they were able to get into voting in the late 1800s. Many women fought to vote for this right. Not only white people, but so did colored people. People in the colored community struggled really hard to get there. Fighting was a struggle for that community in particular because they had tried to get support from their fellow women with no success. They asked for help from the white communities, but they were going up against them because they were saying, oh, we are going up against not only racism here, but gender. I mean, black people weren't allowed to vote and neither were women, so they had both issues. But white women, the white community, believed at the time that they were only fighting for feminism and that them being colored, the racism, had nothing to do with, quite frankly, with their gender and voting, which I found was super interesting. So they didn't help. They helped very, very little when fighting for their fellow women's abilities to vote. Most of their efforts were more towards just straight feminism, which was really sucked because, I mean, a lot of these women were not just going up against being women, but being black, or any color, honestly, where they weren't able to get their support from the whites. They started creating groups together, organizations, together with just people of color. And these organizations did fight for not only the right to vote because they were women, but the right to vote because they are colored. Because, most of what the white women were going for were, oh, let women vote. But they still wouldn't have been able to vote because they were black. These communities were basically groups of black people that got together and they all fought for their common goal in voting, and later on helped a lot with just issues that they struggled with because they were people of color. There were multiple groups. There was the BACW and FAAW and the CWL. The first one that I wanted to talk about today is the National Association of Colored Women, the NACW. This was formed in 1896. The NACW focused on improving the condition of black women and the cultural development of black women and children. They had things like night schools, mothering classes, kindergarten specifically for black children, elderly care for black older women, literacy classes so that they could read, because back then, women were not really taught to read, and white women started learning how to read, but black women, strictly, it was a no-no. So they had literacy classes for black women. These classes were key programs of that organization in specific. Another two I would like to shed light on is the National Federation of Afro-American Women, founded in 1885, and the CWL, formed in 1892. Using hundreds of other local black women and raising progress. These were really big organizations that were able to get hundreds of people for their cause, which was great and helped a lot with what they needed. These groups were beneficial for black women to fight together against racism and allowed for more and more people to help the fight along with them and along with voting. One of the brave women who started an organization was a transplanted Southerner, Wells Burnett. She was instrumental in organizing the first all-black suffrage club in Chicago, an organization that eventually made its marks in politics by helping election of the city's first black alderman. This was a super big achievement for black women. Wells Burnett was born in 1860. She was actually born into slavery with both of her parents, but after the war, the Civil War, where they made slavery illegal, she was then freed. She later became a journalist to write about her experiences, was an anti-lynching activist, a woman suffragist, and an early civil rights movement leader. She was all about, fighting for black women's rights, and fighting for women's rights in general. She was also against racism, and fought for, women's rights as well as people of color's rights, with her journalism, and with her civil rights movement leadership, being a journalist, anti-lynching activist, and woman suffragist, as well as the civil rights movement leader. She authored A Red Record. It's a book that provided the history and statistical data on lynchings of African Americans in the U.S. during the late 19th century. She was super into, showing people that not all black people were bad, and in fact, none of them were bad. They weren't bad just because they were black. And just because they're a woman doesn't mean they shouldn't vote. I think that her story is super inspiring to me, and I think it should be inspiring, quite frankly, to everybody else.